Dawn slowly breaks over a small town surrounded by ancient mountains as the first light of day slips across the clay roofs, empty streets, and fields still shrouded in a soft mist. In this quiet moment, before the city's routine awakens, everything seems to exist at a slower, more contemplative pace. The houses remain still, the roads are still empty, and the light wind that sweeps through the valley carries only the distant sound of nature awakening. Among the few people already awake is Miguel, a man with calm steps and an attentive gaze, accustomed to starting his mornings before the rest of the world. For many years, he has maintained the same simple routine, walking along the same dirt road that slowly climbs towards a hill. The path is not long, but it demands patience. Stones scattered on the ground, small inclines and silent curves accompany each step, while open fields and solitary trees watch the silent traveler move forward. For much of his life, walking along roads has always been part of his work. He spent decades helping to build roads in remote regions, opening routes where before there were only narrow trails and difficult terrain. For years, he connected small towns, bringing together people separated by geography and time. Each road built was more than an engineering feat. It was a passageway to new stories. Over the years, the projects diminished. The machines stopped, the maps were put away, and the work routine became increasingly quiet. Miguel's life slowed down, but some routines remain even when everything around him changes. His morning walk continued to be an essential part of his days. At the top of the hill he always visits, the wind blows stronger, and from there it's possible to see the entire valley, the small houses scattered among the trees, the fields that change color with the seasons, and the roads that crisscross the landscape. Miguel often stops there for a few minutes just to observe the horizon. He likes to imagine that the wind that passes through that place carries fragments of ancient stories, the footsteps of people who walked those lands long before him. On one of those quiet mornings, something different appears by the side of the road. Near an old fence, a thin brown dog sits, gazing at the horizon with curious calm. He seems to observe the world with the same silent patience of that place. Miguel slows his pace upon noticing the animal's presence. The dog raises its head and follows his movements attentively, showing no fear, simply observing, as if trying to understand the man who passes by the same path every day. Miguel continues his walk, but a few seconds later, light footsteps begin to appear behind him. The dog has decided to follow. The next day, the encounter happens again, and the day after that as well. Always at the same spot on the road, near the old fence, the dog appears and begins to accompany the walk, first at a distance, and then closer and closer. Over time, that silent presence ceases to seem like a coincidence, and the two begin to share the same path every morning. During the climb up the hill, the dog sometimes runs a few meters ahead, exploring the terrain with curiosity. He disappears among small bushes and reappears shortly after, as if checking if the path is still safe. Miguel observes this in silence. As he walks with calm steps, carrying years of experience, the dog moves with a simple, almost instinctive confidence, as if each step were a natural part of the journey. One night, a storm sweeps through the region. The rain falls heavily on the valley, the wind blows across the fields, and the sky fills with dense clouds that move rapidly between the mountains. The next morning, the dirt road dawns different. Mud covers part of the path, broken branches are scattered on the ground, and some stones have been displaced by the force of the water. Even so, Miguel sets out for a walk. As he approaches the old fence, the dog is there again, its fur still damp from the rain, but with the same attentive gaze as always. The two continue together. The climb that day requires more care.
The ground is slippery and the terrain seems less stable. At a certain point on the trail, part of the road collapsed during the storm, and a small gap interrupts the path. Miguel stops for a moment. The dog goes first, crossing the broken section with a simple leap. On the other side, he turns and waits. The wind blows strongly over the hill, shaking the tall grass and pushing the clouds across the sky. Miguel observes the path ahead for a few seconds. For much of his life, he has built roads so that others could move forward, and now, in that silent stretch of the trail, it is he who needs to take the next step. Taking a deep breath, Miguel crosses. On the other side, the dog resumes his walk, as if that small obstacle were just a natural part of the path. A short time later, they reach the top of the hill. The clouds begin to slowly part, and the sunlight illuminates the entire valley once more. The fields gleam after the rain, and the roads in the distance look like delicate lines drawn on the landscape. Miguel sits on a large rock, and the dog lies down beside him. For a few minutes, neither of them moves. They simply observe the horizon, while the wind continues to sweep across the hill. In that simple silence, there is something profound. No grand construction, no great event, just two travelers sharing the same moment. Miguel opens the old notebook he carries in his backpack. Among pages worn by time are drawings of roads, improvised maps, and memories of places he helped build throughout his life. But that day, he doesn't draw any new work. He only writes a short sentence. Some paths don't exist merely to connect places. They exist to remind us of who we are as we move forward. The dog raises its head as a new gust of wind sweeps across the hilltop. Down below, almost invisible among fields and trees, the dirt road continues winding through the valley. A simple road, marked by time and nature, but still present. Because some paths, once traveled, cease to exist only in the world. They begin to exist within us.